Hey everyone, I now have two computers, my home lab NAS, which is over there, and then my workstation PC, which is down there. And overall, this works really well for me. I have all my video content on my home lab NAS, and then I do all my video editing on my computer over the network, and that works well. But it does present a problem. If I want to actually control both systems, how should I do that? Well, in general, my home lab NAS is running Debian, so I can just SSH into it like some dodgy hacker from CSI Miami. But I also dual boot Windows on there for benchmarking and things like that. For that, ideally needs a graphical user interface with a monitor and a keyboard and mouse, so what's the best solution for that? Well, at first what I was doing was running around with a separate keyboard and mouse, but that gets really janky and really annoying really quickly. So what I ended up doing was actually running a HDMI cable and a USB 3 cable up from my networking corner and run it all the way up into my attic. Then I found where I wanted to run the cable, which was up there somewhere, and then I run a cable all the way down, making a mess of the wall in the process. I show that off in another video, but it was actually kind of a fun project, to be honest, and I've now got a really smart solution where some cables pop out of a little switch there, and it works really well. Well, I say it works really well. The reason, as you might have guessed, that I run a HDMI cable and a USB 3 cable from my home lab NAS down the walls is so that I can actually use the same monitor and keyboard and mouse to control both my home lab NAS and my Windows machine, which I wanted to show off in this video and also talk about some of the problems I face along the way. So firstly, I bought a hardware KVM switch, which is the standard solution when you want to use one monitor, keyboard and mouse to control everything. But that KVM switch was a budget one, which is my own fault of course. It didn't support EDID emulation or anything like that. And what I was finding was that whilst Windows was sort of working okay with that, my home lab NAS was not. Debian just really didn't like all the display switching, and often it just refused to give any display output. I could kind of hear the keyboard and mouse control working, but the display output just wasn't working very well. Plus my Windows machine ended up getting some really annoying issues where every so often it would switch down to 1080p resolution, and I couldn't easily get it back to the 4K resolution that my monitor supports. In one case, I actually had to reinstall all the display drivers to actually get it back to a normal state, which was really annoying. Now, this was partly my fault for buying a cheap KVM switch. As I mentioned earlier, I could have bought one with EDID emulation support, and that would have made things a little bit better. But I came up with a perfect solution, or should I say a perfectly janky solution. I'll show it more in a minute, but basically I have an old Anker 3 hub, a USB 3 hub. It's got 4 ports on it and then the output as well. And I realised I can just use them, my monitor and my Anker USB 3 hub, and that would probably work well. In terms of consumerism, I'm not going to rant, but often I have the temptation to go out and buy loads of new products every time there's a problem. Also, I think there's a problem, when actually the solution, even if it's slightly manual and janky, the solution is right there in front of me. So the fact that my monitor and my Anker hub could do the job, I thought, why not? So what I ended up doing was, in addition to the USB 3 extension cable that came from my home lab NAS, I also got a really small 2-meter extension cable for my workstation PC, and I run that up the wall to the same sort of level as the other one. I cable managed everything, as you can see, just by putting in PVC trunking. Some people aren't a massive fan of PVC trunking, but I actually really like it. It's just a simple solution here, so all of my cables are going up the wall and including my USB 3 extension cable. And this is where the perfectly janky solution comes in. When I want to switch from controlling my workstation PC to my home lab NAS, I firstly go onto the monitor and I switch the output from HDMI 1 to HDMI 2. And then, and this is the really clever part, I take the extension cable out from my workstation PC and I plug it into my extension cable for my home lab NAS instead, and voila. All of a sudden my monitor output and also my keyboard, mouse and my webcam instantly switch over to run my Debian home lab NAS. But then because I dual boot that, I can also freely go into Windows on my home lab NAS and do all my benchmarking there from the same keyboard and mouse. And yes, there's other solutions here. I know there's loads of software like Mouse Without Borders and Synergy that allow you to share your keyboard and mouse between two computers, but they are software solutions that only work when the operating system is actually booted up. So in other words, if I wanted to reboot the system, my home lab NAS, and then choose something on the Grub bootloader or modify something in the BIOS, I wouldn't be able to do that with any of the software-based solutions that I mentioned, or using something like Logitech Unifying. So yes, I have quite a janky way of actually controlling both my home lab NAS and my workstation PC, but I'm actually kind of happy with it because I already had the Anker USB 3 hub. I think it cost me like £9, and then I bought an extension cable for another £5 from my workstation PC. So in total, for £14, I can easily switch the output just by taking one cable out and putting in another one. Now you might argue that's a silly approach, it's better to just have a proper KVM hub and just click a button, but to be honest, I quite like cheap effective solutions. Any KVM switch will have some element of bugginess, especially if you get into FreeSync or G-Sync configuration, or you've got a 240Hz monitor and then you find out your KVM switch doesn't support that, for example. So I'm kind of happy with what I have just by using the wall cables. It's actually a much better solution. It is very janky though, but I kind of like it. I do actually prefer the extra reliability I have from pressing 3 buttons on my monitor, which is M, down, and then M again. I think it's something like that. And then taking one cable out and putting it in with my USB. I actually prefer that to having a KVM switch. But what do you think? Is my solution really janky? Could I be doing something better? Let me know down in the comments. And that wraps up this video. I'm kind of happy that I've gone through all the extra effort of running a USB 3 cable and HDMI cable up my walls through my attic, because whilst it is a lot of extra effort, it gives me a really neat solution. There's no cables here and I can use the same keyboard and mouse to easily control them. And then I don't get all the bugginess of a KVM switch. You can see the other videos in the series that I'm working on by clicking here somewhere, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please click the thumbs up button and please subscribe to see more videos like this. Thanks for watching.